Beautiful.
Hey Kelly, how you doing? Good to see you. Dave Hudson,
Hey, Brooker.
you're looking good, buddy. I mean, you need to bring your guitar to the next meeting and sort of serenade us.
I'm afraid I hurt your ears.
Oh no. Hardly. I enjoy your posts on Facebook of your
Thank you.
musical endeavors here. Ben,
Yes.
thank you for joining us, Ben. Appreciate it. And I see that Cindy's working to get on. Thank you, Ben.
Yeah, glad to be here.
Yeah. Ben, remind us as well in a second. We'll get more people on here momentarily, but remind us of where you're from, Ben. I forgot.
Lewis County, Kentucky.
Ah,
Uh,
right. Yeah. Thank you very much for your help in so many ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
anything we can do to move the needle. That's our only goal.
Well, we're very grateful. Thank you. Cindy, nice to have you on here. Thank you very much. Lynn, thank you. Bill, great to see you, man. Well, you'll see Eric in a few minutes here. And David Rudder, OKI's in the house. Good to
Oh,
see you,
there we
man.
go. Morning, Brewster.
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Lynn. Nice to see you, dear. Thanks for joining us. And Beth, hey, thank you, Beth. You saw the quote we used in the annual report for 2024, and thank you for that. That was great. Catherine, it's good to see that New Richmond is in the house.
Look at that nice face. How's Key West?
Um, I'm trying to be incognito here, but yeah,
Oh well,
it's a little
I,
warmer than
I
it is
was
for you
I was
guys.
actually talking to another person. I'm sure
Oh
it's
yeah,
not.
yeah, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, Catherine, you're just trying to get on his good side.
That's right. Well, I know it's warmer down there, so that's a good thing.
Well, it's only 68. Gosh, it's freezing.
Oh,
Yeah,
damn the luck.
yeah. Wow, is that right, Bill? I think they're trying to kill off senior citizens with this weather up here. I'll just tell you. That's why they all run to Florida. So I used
Well,
to be
it'd be
there.
nice and warm when the Appalachian Festival comes to New Richmond this year, right?
Yes. Yeah,
There
and
you
they
go.
finally announced, I had to wait on them to officially announce. Did I send
Yeah.
that to you? Well, you've already announced in yours, but I had, for me, from my side, I had to kind of wait on 'em. So they finally put it on Facebook and announced last week. And then that one news guy picked it up, and now I'm getting ready to coordinate with Claremont County and really put it on the map. So,
Well, it's good to have the Appalachian Festival in a county that's officially in Appalachia, correct?
yeah, that really is a
Okay.
cool thing. Yeah,
Okay, great.
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
Sherry, thank you for joining us. Um,
Thank you guys.
yeah,
I guess I'm picking up that you're a little bit south of us in Florida.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
false. That's fake news.
That's fake news. Fake news. That's
Yeah.
right. Good point. Good point.
What part? I missed what part?
Uh, Near Key West. So
Oh, you're way down there.
yeah. Just
Good
for
to
It just
good
runs
for you.
back and forth.
just for a little while. That's right, Kelly. Good to see you, dear. Kelly Hess, one of our board members from the Ohio Riverway, and Judge Executive O'Neill McNeil is here. Thank you, Owen. Good to have you here,
Wonderful.
man.
Hey, morning, Owen.
Good morning, guys. Good morning.
It's good to
Good
have the
morning.
chair of the board of the Kentucky Ohio River Regional Recreation Authority with us. That's good to see you, buddy. Thank
Good
you
to
very
see you,
much.
Brewster.
And Kendall, good to have you here. Alan, that's great. And my friend Greg Dale and Jason Toth is on. So we have Dearborn County in the house as well. Eric Thomas, thank you. We'll be hearing more from you. And Matt, good to see you. I owe you an email. That's great. So Cindy, thank you for joining us from ODNR. And you may, at the end of the meeting, you can make an announcement about the conference and here on. That'd be great. Doug Hart, good to have you here, buddy. And we're starting to get flooded with folks, which is wonderful. Kendall, all right. Thank you, dear. Always good to have you. So we'll start in just a quick moment here. We'll, if everybody could, who's on the call now, take a moment to in the chat put your name and your organizational affiliation. That would be very helpful, so folks know who's in the house and on this call. All right, Sophie, good to have you. And Jess, we'll hear from you, I'm sure. And Rick Jansen, Ironton, Lawrence County is in the house. Thank you very much, buddy. And And Rick, at the end of the meeting, if there's time, you give a quick 1 minute update on your amazing grant that you got for your boat. All right. Rich Cogan, thank you. High River Foundation, Paul Worley, wonderful. Adams County is represented from Ohio. Good to have you, buddy. Economic Development Director there. And this is moving too fast for me to stay up with.
Morning, Brewster.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you very much for joining us. Good to see you, buddy. With your vest on. And Nikki is here. Whoa. Nikki Gerber, you are Moondoggy livery in Adams County. It's great to have you here in your car. I know you have people that you're driving around. And Mark Jacobs, thank you for joining us. And Jess, good to have you here. I know we'll be hearing from you in a bit. So if you all are just joining us, Laurie, it's great to have you all from way out your way in Evansville join us. Thank you. It's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's always good to have you in the house. So if you all could put in the chat your name and organizational affiliation, then everybody else will know who's here. Austin, great to see you. Trent, wow. Amber, good to have you with us. Thank you. Jared, thank you. But please put your name and organizational affiliation in the chat. That'd be great. All right. So 1 more minute. Susan, thank you. Yeah, we're getting to be a decent crowd here for the first meeting of the year.
It's a good crowd.
Bridget, thank you. Good to have you all here. Well, we have a lot to review today, and we have a exciting guest speaker and with Eric Thomas with the Central Ohio River Business Association, and some quick updates that will be beneficial, I think, to everybody in the network here. So thank you for your patience. And again, put your name and organizational affiliation in the chat. Francis, good to have you here, dear. And and Annette with Orsanko. Thank you, Annette. Wonderful. So I now want to turn this over to Forrest, and Forrest, our wonderful official executive director, is just doing a bang-up job, and we're grateful for his extra effort on our behalf. And Forrest, if at some point after you make initial comments, if you could remind people to put their name and organization affiliation in the chat, then I won't have to keep bugging in. So one of the benefits of being the board chair is I pass things all off to the executive director. So take it away.
Thank you so much for welcoming everyone, Brewster, and thank you for the introduction. Welcome to the first coalition meeting of the year. As you may know, we are taking a slightly different format with our coalition meetings this year compared to last. Last year, we were quarterly, and they were just updates from the Ohio River Way. This year, our goal is to do them monthly, with roughly the first half of our meetings being updates from the Ohio River Way and our committees, and then roughly the second half of the meeting being a guest speaker. So today, our inaugural guest speaker will be Eric Thomas, who you will get to hear from later, and Francis from our team will introduce. But to go ahead and get started, I am going to post an agenda in the chat. And as folks keep popping on, please do post your name and your affiliation. So to get going, some of you all may have seen in email format our year in review for 2024. We are going to go ahead and run through that real quick, just looking back on the past 12 months. So I will just shout out as we take a look at this. This is Israel, one of our paddlers during the challenge last year, who maybe had the most photogenic photo representing the Ohio River Way from 2024. And that photo was taken by one of our wonderful volunteer photographers, John Nation. Last year, we saw membership in the Ohio River Way continue to slowly grow. We are at 120 member organizations and communities right now. Our summit's grown. We had 230 people this year. And the challenge has grown as well, up to 45 paddlers now. We placed the new signage, which many of you all helped out with, 152 Ohio River Way signs at 76 locations. We got 68 letters of support for our national water trail application, and we published 5 travel itineraries. It's been a big year of growth for us. The water trail, submitting that national water trail application that has been multiple years in the making, is probably our biggest update. from the past year as an organization. At our core, I like to describe the Ohio Riverway as a water trail that had a coalition grow to be an effective water trail. And because of that, we get involved in all sorts of other spin-off projects related to health and well-being in our communities and outdoor recreation. But at our core, our water trail. So updating our segment maps, for instance, was really important for us. This was not in the agenda, but I have some news for you all. On Monday, we had a call with a representative of the National Park Service, who we've worked with in our application process. They provided some feedback for us. They were enthusiastic about our application, said we did fantastic, which was music to our ears, but there were some things that we need to clean up in the application process. So yes, we had the 68 letters of support, but the most important thing we need to clean up is that we did not have written support from a few of the boat ramps along the river. We need a letter specifically from every entity that manages an access point to the Ohio River. So we have spent this week, and we're going to continue to work on next week, getting together those final few letters. And we are very, very grateful to everyone that had submitted a letter earlier. We're very grateful to all of the communities that have already gone ahead and sent us a revised letter in the past week, and the folks we're working with over the coming week to get past that final hurdle and send in all those letters to the National Park Service. So cautiously excited news in the realm of becoming a national water trail. Just wanted to share that with you all in all transparency, and just to express again our gratitude, because it seriously, it would not be happening without all of the support of all of you all. It literally is taking every single access point support. So thank you. Also on the water trail, we had that $1.75 million community project funding request for ADA accessible docks, as well as informational kiosk in Southern Ohio. We do not know yet what will happen there. We've been told by our contacts, formerly with Brad Winstrup's office, who's now retired, that Congress could take up the community project funding request. Congress may not. It is. I had another staffer tell me it's in God's hands. So we will see what happens in the new Congress there. Had our annual events, the challenge, the summit. Saw a lot of you all along the challenge or at the summit. Both were a success this year. Talking about how we can improve things for the coming year. We expect the challenge to be longer. Should be announcing some stuff related to the challenge in the coming month. Expect to start further upriver, nearer to Ashland and Ironton. And for the summit, I also hope we have some good news there in the coming month or so. So stay posted. A few other key milestones beyond water trail efforts. The Kentucky-Ohio River Regional Recreation Authority was born as an idea, passed by the General Assembly in Kentucky, signed into law by the governor in 25 counties, passed resolutions all along this Kentucky's border with the river to join CORBA. This is historic. It truly is historic, and again, this would not have happened without grassroots support. So I know we saw Judge McNeil on there, the new chair of CORA. Thank you for your leadership there. Thank you to Judge Moore, the new vice chair, and Deborah Boltitsky with Waterfront Park in Louisville, who's the secretary and treasurer. Really excited to see how CORA continues to grow. Another huge development led by the ILCAO, the Ironton Lawrence County Community Action Organization, that the Ohio Riverway was proud to be a stakeholder in the grassroots process for, was Ohio's Wonderful Waterfronts Initiative. This was a application back in 2023, but the results were announced this past year. The state of Ohio is investing $152 million in 17 Ohio communities along the river. This is historic riverfront development, and we could not be more excited for it. I know some of those communities are on this call, and huge kudos to you all for all the work you put in making that application a success. It was a historic level of collaboration as well. Other huge news from 2024. We saw the introduction at the very end of the year of the Ohio River Restoration Program Act. This is the federal restoration initiative that we've been talking about for so long, that the Ohio River Basin Alliance and the National Wildlife Federation has been helping lead the efforts for. What we are excited to see this in any form. The co-chairs of the Ohio River Basin Caucus that are introducing it are Morgan McGarvey in Kentucky and Aaron Houchin in Louisville and Southern Indiana, respectively. We are especially excited to see that in this draft legislation, it would fund public recreational access to the river, among other things that address wildlife habitat, mitigate flood risk, support workforce development, and improve the quality of water. We're going to continue supporting these efforts, and you'll see more on this in the coming year. We also, at the start of 2024, had the release of Morgan Atkinson's documentary, This is the Ohio. KWA, Kentucky Waterways Alliance, and ourselves helped organize screenings for that up and down the river. It made it onto PBS through KET. Huge thank you to Morgan Atkinson for pulling together that documentary. In the news, the Ohio Riverway helped get positive stories about the river in a variety of outlets all along the river, whether that was on the Restoration Initiative or CORBA or even Flotsam River Circus coming through. We always try to get good stories about the river to always try to change the narrative. And we continue to have success with it this year. Last big news for us as an organization is we have grown in our staffed capacity. I have stepped into the role of executive director. I'm incredibly grateful to all of you all for all the support in the recent weeks as I've made that change. We hired Jessica Bolt-Sarrazin as our communications manager. She's been doing a stunning job there. I know a lot of you will appreciate the newsletters, and you can thank Jessica for that. Frances Kern-Manone is still a vital part of our team with all of our major development initiatives, and Sophie Ritzenthaler has stepped in to do a lot of the behind-the-scenes work that is really vital as an administrative assistant. Jess, Frances, and Sophie are all in part-time roles, just be clear, but it's grown our capacity so much having Jess and Sophie on the team as well, and Frances was already with us, but very grateful to her. Had Heather French Henry step in a part-time role, and Jerry and John with the National Park Service also helped get an application across the finish line. The last note on change in leadership is that David Wicks with our team stepped down from his role as vice chair and is remaining with us as a board member, and I'm sure will be very, very involved and continue to be a leader. But we need to thank Mary Allen, Christy Knoll, and Mike Perlberg for stepping up as vice chairs of the Ohio Riverway. So our executive committee includes them, Brewster as chair, and Jody will continue to be secretary, and Simon will continue to be treasurer. And I would be remiss not to thank all of our supporters, all the members, all the member organizations, all the member communities, the individual donors, especially the foundations that have helped us grow our support, grow our capacity, including the Owsley Brown II Family Foundation. I see you all are on the call. The REI Cooperative Action Fund, the Hill Foundation in Cincinnati, and the Meshua Farm Foundation. That was 2024. It was a busy year, and we are looking forward to another busy year in 2025. I'll pause right there. I know I talked a lot. If there's anything anyone wants to add, or if anyone has any questions, please do chime in. Perfect. Well, in that case, that report is posted on our website. We also have 2023's report up there as a point of comparison. But thank you for listening as we went through all that, and thank you for being there for 2024. Shifting gears, I'm going to pass this off to Jess and Bridget. Jess is helping lead our publication of our Ohio Riverway Guide for 2025. And we have some updates there and some updates on ads.
All right. So, hi, everyone. So as many of you know, we're underway with our 2025 Guide to the Ohio Riverway, which will be published in late April. This time around, we're nearly doubling the amount of copies we produced the first time, and we've widened our distribution plan to include not only river towns up and down the Ohio, but also all throughout Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana. It'll be available at major tourist points of interest, including state fairs, travel and boat shows in Indianapolis and Louisville, and we'll plan on passing them out at a booth at the River Roots event in Cincinnati this October, which is a major event predicted to bring in tens of thousands of people. It'll also be available online as a digital flip book, which we'll promote on our website and on our end as well, and packaged with issues of Cincy Magazine, Dayton Magazine, and Midwestern Traveler Magazine. So if you're interested, our deadline to place an ad is January 31st. And so far, we've got over 20 organizations committed to placing an ad. And thank you so much to those who have done so. But if anyone else wants to secure their spot, you can reach out to Bridget, who is on this call, or I'm sure she can place her email in the chat. She works for Cincy Magazine, who is helping us with ad sales. And additionally, after this meeting, I'll be sending out an email with that information as well. But yeah, we're really excited for this guide and, hopefully producing our best edition yet, which I'm sure it will be. Bridget, feel free to chime in with anything that maybe I forgot to mention.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you,
Yeah.
Jessica. One thing I would like to add is that the digital flipbook will be available for 2 years on Cincy Magazine's website, Dayton, Ohio Business, and Midwestern Traveler. So any ad that you place, if a person was looking through the digital flipbook, they just click your ad and it'll take them directly to your website, which I think is really cool. But I put my email into the chat. The deadline to book an ad is January 31st. So that is coming up. But yeah, feel free to reach out to me and I can help you all out. But thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jess and Bridget, for all you're doing to make the guide there a success. I'll add the way we've structured this is every dollar that goes into advertising, a part of that goes to buying more copies. So the more investment we have in ads, the more copies we can get out to share all the great stuff people can do along the road. All right, shifting gears again.
Oh, I'm sorry. Does Annette, do you have a question? I saw your hand up.
Super quick. I know you got a full agenda. Is this going to be the same as last year, where like each agency that's doing an ad will have the opportunity to help create that? Or is this something that you and the magazine will just take over?
Like content?
Create the ad?
I'm sorry, what?
Content or the ads?
The ads, when we just paid for an ad space, like a quarter page, half page, full page, will we have the chance to help create that?
Yes, absolutely. We can
Okay,
always
great.
help for free on our side, but if you all create one yourselves, you're more than welcome to send it in.
Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect. Do you have any other questions on plans for the guide right now?
Here's a question. Who's working content? I thought Annette was asking about content, but so last year we had or 2 years ago when we did this, we had a group of folks from this body came together and were sort of the guide subcommittee. Has that been established?
Jess, I'll let you take this one since you're leading content.
Yeah. So I am primarily leading the content in terms of creating the stories, but we are creating an ad hoc guide committee with a small group of people who will, of course, approve the stories and look over all of the content and what we plan to do. So there will be a small group of folks approving it, and then I will be managing the content and also writing a large portion of the content as well.
Yeah. Not certain if we mentioned, we do plan to have this distributed by the end of April. That's our target, because we're going to be embarking on the challenge in early May, and we want to make sure that we have copies in hand with us as we go on. But we also do intend for this publication to have a shelf life of 2 years. Perfect. Okay. Last bit on Ohio Riverway business. Or committee updates. I know the guide discussion probably covered a lot what the tourism committee wanted to cover, but I do know that Mark Jacobs is on with an update from the conservation committee.
Yeah, thanks, Forrest, and congratulations, buddy. Thanks, everybody. I just got a couple of quick updates. As far as the mapping effort in the project area, I think Margaret Minzer and Jack from Boone County GRS are making some good headway. And I think they're starting to kind of form a group of other interested GIS folks that are starting to join them and help out. Hopefully the next effort will be to kind of wrap up this initial project, put an end to it and get a usable product at the end, and then kind of reevaluate and go from there. Our education specialist at Boone County here, Susan Brown, has been in contact with the Kentucky Association of Environmental Educators to kind of help out, gather the educational information that is out there and kind of start working on putting it together and making it available and usable to everybody here. So she'll be continue to work on that. And the last piece of big news is that Christy couldn't be here. She had another appointment, but the Ohio River Wildlife Conservation Corridor project that she has been working on, and they're trying to acquire the parent property, which is about 340 acres right on the Ohio River at the 275 bridge. What makes that even more important is that there's some very important historic and prehistoric archaeological sites on there, and it also connects across the river to the Oxbow and also Shawnee Lookout. So it's kind of now becoming a kind of a tri-state river corridor area. With any luck, she'll close on that property by the end of the month. If everything goes accordingly, everything's set up. So everybody cross their fingers and hopefully it'll go smoothly. And that will be another 340 acres of forested land that will be permanently protected. And it will be at some point be available for recreational purposes too. So anyway, that's all I have right now for us. Thanks.
All great news. Thank you, Mark.
Appreciate
Paul Tancati with the history committee was unable to make it today, but as you may have heard last time, he is working on an Ohio River Gateway series of books, an anthology about the Ohio River. And he accepted 20. He wanted me to share that we accepted 28 chapter proposals, and he sent that on to the publisher as a proposal for 2 volumes. So good news there. Noelle, and Jess, are there any more updates from the tourism committee? Jess, I did forget we do have that internship, if you'd like to talk about that a bit more.
Yeah, so a couple things. We're hiring for a social media intern. I think it'll be starting in mid-April and go until mid-June. We do need someone to commit to going on the 11-day Ohio River Way Challenge with us. But this is a great opportunity for anyone who is a content creator who also is an avid paddler and can really just show off the beauty of the Ohio River and also promote, the river towns along the way. So available to travel a little bit as well. That is posted on our website that I can also post a link in the chat as well. So if you know anyone, and it is also a paid opportunity as well. So yeah, feel free to share it within your network as well. And then one more other thing as well, we also would love to know about any of your 2025 paddling events this year. So feel free to just throw them in the chat or also, oh yeah. And they had me drop it off. Oh, I think that's someone else. Okay. Sorry about that. So also, yes, if you have any paddling events happening this year, please send them in the chat, or you can email me at jessica@ohioriverway.org. Not only do we want to promote them individually, but we would also love to create a collective resource where we can list all of them and show people how they can get out on the water this year. That covers it on my end, unless Noelle has anything else to add. Okay.
Noelle? Okay.
I think I'm good. I think our committee met last week, and we had a small group, but we'll be meeting every other month, and then potentially working in some of conversations on the guide in the alternate months. But if there's folks on here that were not able to make the tourism committee call last week, I have my notes, and I really have an intention of sending them out. For those of you that were unable to make that meeting last week. So we'll get you up to speed, but I don't think anything critical was missed.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Noelle. And Annette and Rachel, I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to check in with you all beforehand, but if you have any updates on the Clean Ohio River Committee and the River Sweep program, now's your chance.
Hey, Forrest. Yeah, sorry I wasn't able to answer your calls or get back to you. It's been crazy. This is Annette Schumard. I work for ORSENCO and our Foundation for Ohio River Education. Thanks for giving me a chance to give an update. The Clean Ohio River Committee has not met yet or come up with a consistent schedule. However, I have met with the new co-chair, who is Rick Jansen, and I'll get to him in just a second. But I wanted to start off and give a quick update from Orsenco. We are working on a 5-year basin-wide collaboration communication plan in close partnership with each of our member states and our public information officers. So that's going to be presented for approval at the February Commission meeting. And if anyone is interested in being a collaborator as part of that communication plan, which I hear you guys have this really great stuff going on with the social media intern and what you'll have them do. So if there's anything that you'd like to be included in when we do our annual plan of work, just shoot me an email. It's going to be a really great plan. We've been working on it for 2 years, so I'm excited about that. Also very excited that we are in the midst of planning the Ohio River Sweep season for 2025 right now, which starts in March. And Rachel can talk a little bit more about that. The supply request form is live. So get your applications in for 2025. And Rachel has some updates. We'll get to her in just a second. We have a really cool t-shirt design this year that the Art Academy of Cincinnati students designed for us. And we have the new program coordinator. Her name is Rachel Tony. She has her camera on, unlike me. So I will give Rachel a chance to talk. I just wanted to also give a really quick update with the Clean Ohio River Committee. We have the new co-chair, Rick Jensen, and also Trisha Novak, I believe, is still going to be participating. So it's a great, strong leadership, and we're really excited to get the committee back together again and up and running. Probably get our first meeting going in late February. Okay, I want to let Rachel and Rick say something if they have items. But Rachel, would you go ahead and introduce yourself and just talk about the Ohio Riverway Coalition cleanup event we're planning?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel. I'm the new Ohio River Sweep Coordinator for Orsanco. I've been with the foundation in Orsanco for about a year before this, so I'm really excited to dive more into sweep with all of you. We're planning a coalition-wide river sweep cleanup in partnership with Ohio Riverway. We're looking at a couple dates. We're thinking maybe the third week in June, possibly the Outdoor Expo before Paddle Fest, or October 4th, right before the River Roots Festival. And we're hoping this can be a collaboration where all of you and your organizations and team members can come and participate in the cleanup. And we can have like a large press release with it just to build awareness around the river, and the importance of our, stewardship practices there.
And this will be the length of the entire Ohio River. Like, we want to have at least one event in each county represented by coalition members here. So it will be a true partnership. You will have prime location space on our event t-shirt for this one. So it's going to be really exciting. You want to be a part of that Ohio Riverway Coalition event and get your special t-shirt, your souvenir t-shirt. Thank you, Rachel.
And wouldn't it be great, Annette and Rachel, if we could have, under your leadership, the largest river sweep ever done?
Yes,
by
Brewster.
engaging every single county, and within each of those counties, every community, and it could be 10 people, it could be 100 people. It doesn't, it just, what we really want is to have as many entities participate, and then we'll try to weigh the amount of trash collected. We'll try to count the number of tires, which is what you guys do every year. But the idea that there could be two sort of punch-up dates, one in the spring, one in the fall, would be cool, because it would be great if we had 50 or 100 communities all engaged the same day, mobilizing volunteers. I think that would have a huge PR impact and demonstrate to folks that people really do care about the river.
Yes, and thank you for bringing that up. It does not have to be a large group. It can be as little as 2 people. I mean, Rachel and I have gone out with, like one seasonal from our crew, and we have collected more than some of the other groups have. So it really doesn't matter the size. If you just have 2 friends and you want to go out, that's great. We got to get our supply request forms in, and there will be more information coming about this, how to be involved. How, that all that info will come. We'll get it in the newsletter or something like that, and people can sign up. So, and then I just wanted to see if Rick or Trisha wanted to say anything else about what's going on with the Clean Ohio River Committee and their plans. I think they're on here.
And Rick, I know we would love to hear the exciting news out of Ironton.
Yes.
With that grant success you have.
Yes.
Okay. Annette, she may never speak to me again. She stopped by the office one day, and I think 7 hours later, she was able finally to leave after learning all about composting and this situation of drift and clean waters, and probably scared the hell out of her. Maybe.
Best day of my life.
Okay, cool.
Best day of my life.
So we're really super excited. We were able to get a grant for a working barge that is nearly complete, being built up in northern Minnesota. It will have a crane on the front of it that'll help lift materials out of the water. We do have a certified diver on our staff that will be doing some of the rigging, and we plan on getting this boat into operation by mid-April. And it is our hope that other communities will reach out to us to use this asset in their local communities. We'd bring it up there and we'd work on a weekend in your area to help clean up some of the things that are too big to be handled by hand. And it's really our focus is to try to get some of the stuff that's been left here for years and years out of the waterways and make it a friendlier recreational area, improve the water quality. And, I'm super excited about this idea of all us along the Ohio River picking a weekend and, everybody pitching in for that weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Friday or Saturday, whatever it has to be. Maybe it has to be at different places throughout the week, but if we could do a week-long window where we could have this done, and prior to the river routes the weekend before, we plan on moving it up to Cincinnati. I've been reaching out to our buddies at B&B Riverboats about storing this unit there for the week, telling people about the program, and try to clean up a little bit around the Cincinnati area prior to this gigantic event that's going to happen. So really exciting news. Excited to work with everybody and anybody that wants to schedule a weekend where we'd bring this equipment up to you. Just reach out to me and we'll figure out a time, and if we can make it happen. Just the operating cost of the boat, which would be fuel basically. And if it's a multi-day event, we'll have to look at that. But we're excited to get this equipment out in the water and start working it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Rick. That's huge news. If you'd put your email in the chat, Rick, I'm sure folks would reach out. All right. Thank you to all of our committee leaders, everyone that chimed in there. Greatly appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and shift gears now. Francis, if you would introduce Eric, our inaugural guest speaker for this series, and we'll try to wrap up 5 or 10 minutes before 4, ideally, and then give you all a chance to share any other good news from our Ohio Riverway communities. But Francis?
Yeah. So much like what was happening over in Kentucky with instigating the Ohio Riverway playing a part in instigating some legislation that happened in that state, we weren't the instigators, so that we invited the instigator, the rabble rouser, Eric Thomas, to tell us about what he's created here in the state of Ohio. It is a similar piece of legislation that helps coalesce the agencies that have businesses that are happening on the river or controls of things that are happening on the river for the state of Ohio specifically. It's mirrored after mirrored after Ohio's own version of the Great Lakes Commission. And so the state of Ohio didn't have a commission of any sort that was, it had in the past, but it doesn't have one currently, a commission that's focused specifically on the Ohio River. And for those of you who know me, I like to talk about how we've got so many disparate entities that whose lines start and end at the river. The same thing is manifested for the states. And so as we listen to Eric Thomas, who is the president of the Central Ohio River Business Association and general manager of Benchmark River and Rails Terminals, I hope we can get something like this going in Indiana, because we are very excited about what we're doing over here in both Kentucky and Ohio. But if you don't hear yourself, if you don't tune out, if you're not from Ohio, we want to try and mirror legislation like this in other parts of our Ohio River Way. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
Great. Y'all can hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. Good morning, Francis, and thank you for that introduction. I'm assuming you all can see my screen share as well.
Yep. Gotcha.
Yep. Very good. Okay. Good. Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to talk today. It's kind of interesting. I'm honored to be the inaugural speaker in this series. It's kind of funny. I actually put this presentation together, if you will, this PowerPoint for another presentation I just made this morning at another organization here to speak of all your disparate organizations, Francis, the Greater Cincinnati Harbor Maritime Control Committee, which is another organization that's been in existence here in Cincinnati Harbor since the 1970s, really. But anyway, I presented there this morning in another inaugural series that they've created to kind of highlight their members and so on and so forth. So I spoke largely on behalf of Benchmark River and Rail Terminals, but also for CORBA. So I won't bore you guys a whole lot. I think just to complete the introduction, as Francis said, I'm the general manager at Benchmark River and Rail Terminals here in Cincinnati. We're west of the Anderson Ferry by less than a mile. So if you understand the geography here, we're on the Ohio River. Obviously, we bring in barges of stuff and we store it in storage tanks, and we also have a rail yard where we bring in rail cars of stuff and transload for distribution into the local marketplace. So that's what Benchmark does. We started this operation here 15 years ago, but the facility was originally built by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for Department of Defense back in the 1950s to supply jet fuel to Wright-Patt Air Force Base. They retired the facility back in probably the 1990s or so, and our ownership bought the property back in the early 2000s, and we started Benchmark, like I said, about 15 years ago. So anyway, CORBA, I think it feels like I've presented to some of you before, probably in some setting or another, but CORBA is the Central Ohio River Business Association. We incorporated CORBA in 2011, really started CORBA and from a steering committee standpoint the year or so before that. And the focus and purpose of forming CORBA was really to really unite the river industry here in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky Harbor in a way that did not have a presence. There was no association, there was no trade group, no state association, no state agencies on either side of the river, really representing the river industry. And so we saw this as being a weakness, certainly amongst industry, and an opportunity for us to band together and kind of form a common voice for promoting the river industry in a way that wasn't being done. There is a port authority in Cincinnati. There's also a port authority in Northern Kentucky, and both of these port authorities, neither of these port authorities, I should say, are active in any river commerce of any kind whatsoever. In fact, Northern Kentucky Port Authority is really idle for the most part and isn't doing anything. And the Cincinnati Port Authority is more of a land bank, brownfield redevelopment organization than anything. But that's partly because there are only a few public port authorities that have existence on the Ohio River, and only two on the entire Ohio River that are active in Ohio, and they're not here in the local area. So 98% of the industry along the Ohio River is really made up of private businesses, and everybody each to his own and working on their own thing. And again, there was no association pulling them all together. So that's a little bit of the background. Through my be careful what you wish for when you stand up and you volunteer or whatever. I now serve on the Ohio Maritime Plan Steering Committee, which is an ODOT steering committee for the purpose, as it says, to create the Ohio Maritime Plan, which Ohio never had before. And I would like to think that through some of the advocacy that CORBA has been doing over the last 15 years or so, that we've kind of pushed along to the point where we're getting the states to really pay attention and put these things together. I also serve on the Ohio Freight Advisory Committee, which is also an ODOT freight advisory organization. So I represent the Ohio River interest there. And then, of course, we've got the Ohio River Commission, which I was asked to speak a little bit more about today, but just wanted to provide some additional, background, if you will. And again, a little bit about CORBA, already talked about that. This is the Ports of Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, as it exists by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. You mentioned, Indiana. You notice Indiana's kind of grayed out over here. And that's because when we petitioned the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to redesignate the ports of Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky, Indiana really didn't want to participate in that effort and opted to not participate. So anyway, they have Ports of Indiana is a statewide port authority, and I think they just kind of felt like we've got this covered. We don't need to go along with you guys. But this is the Ports of Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, PSA, Port Statistical Area, as defined by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. You can see that includes really 5 counties in Ohio and 11 counties in Kentucky. So that is the reach of what we call the Ports of Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. And again, it's a port statistical area. The entirety of Ohio, the Ohio River in Ohio, is really represented by 3 port statistical areas. There's a Mid-Ohio Valley Port Statistical Area, which covers the eastern and northern region, if you will, from Pennsylvania down to the border of the Huntington Port District Port Statistical Area. And then Huntington runs from that northern geography up to the called the eastern boundary of the Ports of Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. So the entirety of the Ohio River is really represented in these 3 geographical port statistical areas as they're defined, with the Corps of Engineers. But again, we've done some various work over the years just promoting. CORBA is really we're about economic development. We're about promoting the Ohio River as a economic force and representing the businesses and industry that work in and on the Ohio River. And so that includes all business and every industry. Well, our definitions is basically if you touch the water, if you're in the water, you have a place at the table with CORBA. And that's going to include, of course, from your all's perspective, the recreational tourism segment of industry, if you will, for the Ohio River. And so we do have that reach. But we're also talking about private terminals like Benchmark, and also the folks that are pushing barges up and down the river, the carriers, the fleet operators locally, and so on and so forth. So that's really our target membership. I think there are, in the ports of Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, I think there are 44 marinas within the ports of Cincinnati and that geography I described, that 200-mile radius. So that's a lot. We don't really have any marinas that are CORBA members, but generally they're talking about small private operators, focused on their own work and so on and so forth. But don't necessarily feel like, I guess, they need to be members of CORBA. But nonetheless, we look at that as an industry segment that's an important part of industry on the Ohio River. Anyway, like I said, I put this presentation together for another presentation, and so not all of it relates. But again, this is a snapshot of a marketing piece that we put together a few years ago to market the ports of Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky. And we actually have a program called CORIS, the Central Ohio River Information System. We formed that several years ago in conjunction with OKI, who you all are aware of too, because when I know when Ohio River Way wanted to create the mapping tool, you guys went to work at OKI or work with OKI, and so much of the original information that was used to backfill the mapping system Ohio River Way uses came from the CORIS information, which is all put together. It's a map layer within OKI's transportation information system. So we called it CORIS, the Central Ohio River Information System. OKI is our lead sponsor for that mapping tool. It lives on the CORBA website, but it's housed on the server at OKI, much the same way I think that probably most of your mapping information is or was. But behind CORIS, there's a database, and that database includes information about every, we're basically trying to locate every asset and every touch point on the Ohio River that is a terminal, that is a utility power plant, even locks and dams, and so on and so forth. So CORIS is really trying to identify all of the assets and locations on the Ohio River. And so from that database, then we're able to kind of surmise, what is the ports of Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky, what is it made of, and so on and so forth. And so, again, just from a marketing perspective, we're able to go to the folks like Ready Cincinnati, Regional Economic Development Incorporated, or their sister affiliation over on the Kentucky side, which is B Northern Kentucky these days. But provide them information so that they know how to promote and talk about the great asset that is the Ohio River. We talk about it all the time. We are a distribution powerhouse, if you will, in our region. A lot of people don't really realize the intensity of what we are as a distribution hub, and people like Amazon recognizes. So they put their global headquarters for their air transportation hub right here at CVG in Cincinnati. So you've got CVG, you've got the two Class 1 railroads, we got interconnectivity of all the highways and so on and so forth, and we have something that few cities, municipalities throughout the country can really say, and that is a navigable waterway, which gives us a full port complex. So that's really what we're trying to speak to here. That our region really is a port region, and we've got all the port assets that you need. We touch water, rail, air, and highway, of course. So anyway, this is some of the work that CORBA does. These are some of our strategic partnerships that we talk about in terms of who we work with and so on and so forth. Interestingly enough, when we started talking about the Ohio River Commission, MARAD put together, I'm assuming you all are probably aware, but the Ohio River is actually designated a marine highway. It's Marine Highway number 70. And that's a designation from U.S. Department of Transportation, MARAD, the Maritime Administration. And what they've done is they've gone throughout the country and created this Marine Highway program. And Marine highways are numbered typically in conjunction with a parallel highway, interstate highway. So Interstate 70 runs from Pittsburgh through to Kansas City. And so it's a east to west, west to east course that kind of parallels the Ohio River to the north, but that's where the M70 designation came from, because it's parallel to the I-70 corridor. So you all talk about signage for the Ohio River Way and so on and so forth. We had a vision at one point to have signage for the Ohio River to put the blue shield, red, white, blue shield with the M70 designation to let people know that you're traversing the M70, the Marine Highway number 70, kind of like Interstate 71, 75, whatever. So anyway, one thing we never got to, but MARAD put together the Marine Highway program. I'm going to say probably more than 15 years ago, but around 15 years ago, and we had a meeting here in Cincinnati. It was probably more like 20 years ago, but there was meetings here in Cincinnati where they were kind of unrolling. ODOT, Ohio Department of Transportation, was the lead sponsor agency for the M70, and so they started having learning sessions and such, throughout the state. And they had one here in Cincinnati, and that really kind of was one of those say genesis points for the formation of what we later called ORCO, the Ohio River Commission, or Coalition of Ohio, which then was the breeding ground for the Ohio River Commission of Ohio. So what we now are calling the Ohio River Commission here in Ohio. So anyway, my point is that this is something we've been talking about for a long time, and we kind of got away from it to a, I say we, I mean, when industry started coalescing, we formed this coalition to start having this impact to form a broader coalition of Ohio industry, Ohio River industry, and it kind of tailed off. But then we reorganized that back in 2019. So we actually had a meeting up in Columbus at the ODOT offices. This was around the same time that Mid Ohio Valley Port Statistical Area was being created by, sponsored by ODOT. And so at that point, we just said, hey, we need to get together. We just need to bring this thing across the finish line. So we've really started working on this about 5 or 6 years ago, more in depth. But really, it kind of took off in the last year or so. And so the Ohio River Coalition of Ohio, if you will, not a formal incorporated entity, really just a loose coalition of businesses up and down the Ohio River. We've been meeting for quite a while, and through petitions to some of the local state legislators in Ohio up and down the river, we picked up steam on getting this bill created. In fact, we created the bill amongst ORCO, and I say that from the standpoint that Francis, you mentioned the Lake Erie Commission. We looked at the Lake Erie Commission. We also looked at the Ohio Rail Commission, and so we really formed the Ohio River Commission more along the lines of the Ohio Rail Commission. But we tried to marry, the best of both worlds, and then add to that in a way. So again, our vision has been to have a state representative, much to what you're talking about here. You talked about CORBA. We have the same vision for Kentucky, for West Virginia, for Indiana, that each state should have a maritime agency that is responsible for managing its share, if you will, of the Ohio River, and then having those all work collectively so that we can really operate the Ohio River as a system, and it's a system that only works if you really look at it from a system perspective. In other words, we're not going to load barges here in Cincinnati and move them to someplace else in Cincinnati. That's just not the way industry would work. But we would load barges in Cincinnati perhaps and move them to Pittsburgh, or move them to St. Louis, or places in between. And so it's important that we have a system that is working collectively, and not parochially, where you've got states that are working really in competition with each other and so on and so forth. You're going to have that, but the first thing is to bring industry to the Ohio River. The second thing is to figure out where it goes. But if we don't have a strong concept of what the Ohio River is and how to use it, then we're going to keep losing out. And again, I'm really talking from a commercial perspective more than anything, that if we don't have an effort to bring industry to Ohio, and Indiana is more organized than we are, then this is going to go to Indiana a lot of times, or maybe it goes to Kentucky, which again is fine, or maybe it goes to West Virginia, but it doesn't necessarily land in Ohio. So this is one of the charges that we feel that the Ohio River Commission needs to be focused. There needs to be a focus on the Ohio River as a state asset and an economic development engine to drive commerce, and it is today, but it's less so today than it was before in total volume. And I say that because we've had a closures of power plants happening up and down the river system. The coal-fired power plants keep shutting down. So even though overall commerce on the river has grown across the spectrum, the loss that we haven't brought on near enough to overcome the losses of coal. So there is a diminishing of the amount of commerce that's being conducted on the Ohio River. So that was really, again, I'm not prepared really to dive into the Ohio River Commission in great detail, because it's brand new, right? The law just got passed, and the governor just signed the bill, within the last couple of weeks. So the commission hasn't been stood up yet. I'm not sure exactly what the status of things are in terms of going through the process of establishing the commission. But we do know that the commission has some statutorily assigned positions. It's lives and is housed in economic development. The economic development director will be the lead agency over the Ohio River Commission, but it also taps into other agencies within the state of Ohio, DOT being one of them. So there's going to be three or four, I can't remember, four members, I guess, that are statutorily assigned through the agencies that are represented. But then there's going to be an additional 9 commissioners that are assigned. 3 of them will come through the legislature, the House and the Senate, and 6 of them will be governor appointments. And generally, those will be from folks that are representative of industry or segments of industry. And I know, Brewster, you've talked about this quite a bit, and hear you loud and clear. We certainly feel like the legislation specifically talks about industry segment for recreation and tourism, and so I would expect that some person somewhere that has recreation tourism in their job description will be a person that will be assigned on the commission. But I tell everyone, look, the horses are out of the barn. We've stood up the commission, but at this point, I can certainly tell you from my personal perspective, I don't feel like I have much influence in what happens at this point. I'm not necessarily well connected in Columbus, and that's not what I do. I run a terminal here in Cincinnati. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But obviously, I'd like to think that the coalition that really pushed for the formation of the Ohio River Commission will still have some influence. We'll see how that goes. But that's kind of where we're at right now. So we're kind of in a wait and see game to see what the next steps are, and then what is asked of us or what have you. So yeah, our vision too is to we've said originally that the Ohio River Commission of Ohio would be the name, because what we would love to see is an Ohio River Commission of West Virginia, and an Ohio River Commission of Kentucky, and an Ohio River Commission of Indiana, and then to have those commissioners form an Ohio River coalition amongst themselves, if you will, to really coordinate the Ohio River as a system and really be working together to enhance the Ohio River as a system, as opposed to working independently and trying to do things state by state. We always say that you might have a state border at the edge of the river, but on the other side of the river, a boat ride away, a paddle away, or whatever, is the other state, and that's it in terms of distinguishing one from the other. And so they really need to work together. The system can only work if we have a cooperation amongst all the agencies. And so again, Francis, to your point, there are so many different agencies that are involved. Nobody knows who to go to, and nobody knows who to turn to talk to. Who do we talk to about river issues in the state of Ohio? Randy Lane might be a name that you're all familiar with. He's in ODOT. He's a planner. He has maritime in his title, but he's the only person in the state of Ohio government that has maritime in his job title or his job description. And likewise in Kentucky, Jeremy Edgeworth is the Ohio River and Rail coordinator for the state of Kentucky. He works in Department of Transportation. Again, nobody else, as far as I'm aware of, that has a designation that says that they have responsibility over anything to do with the Ohio River. So that's what we're shooting for. That's our take on what the Ohio River Commission is. Appreciate the opportunity to present, but I'll open up the last couple minutes if anybody wants to talk about it, or any questions or anything I can help with.
Yeah, thank you so much, Eric. I know we have it really is great to see that historic work happening in Ohio as well. I know we have just a couple minutes here. Our team will also stay on an extra 5 or 10 minutes. Want to open the floor, as Eric said, to questions about his discussion, any questions in general, and also if anyone has any good news from their communities, we would love to hear it.
Just speak up, folks.
I'm sorry. I kind of missed what Forrest said, but is this an opportunity to mention events?
Yes,
yeah, cool.
Please do.
The Indiana Trails, you mentioned this when we logged on, is having their first, sorry, Gary asked me to do this and I was not very prepared. They're having their first Safe Bridges for All conference in May of this year, and he just wanted me to extend that invitation to everyone. I put a save the date graphic in the messenger, and if there's any other questions, you'll want to contact Gary from Indiana Trails, or I think Brewster, you said there's somebody else on the call that might have some more information.
I don't know, but thank you.
Okay.
So I'm wondering, is Cindy Bellar from ODNR still on the call? I think she had to jump off, but she wanted to make an announcement about. Go ahead.
Hey, hi, Brewster.
Oh, there you are. Oh.
Hey, so I placed a flyer for the Ohio Marina Conference in the chat. So if folks are interested in attending that conference or want to get information about the Ohio Clean Marina program through the Department of Natural Resources and in partnership with, I think, Ohio State University as well, or yeah. So there should be some information and a QR code that you can click onto, and you can get some more information from there. So
Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, I just want to let folks know that I just did a quick review. We have people from 5 different states, 7 state agencies, 11 tourism bureaus, 14 counties, maybe 15 in 3 states represented, and 28 different communities. So hats off to the breadth of participation here today. Really appreciate it. And I especially want to welcome Jared Nally. Jared, thank you so much. Jared is representing the Miami Tribe of Oklahoma, and he's from the Cincinnati area, and just really appreciate their participation in our work today. Are there any other announcements that folks want to make?
I will put out an ask. The Ohio Riverway is going to be publishing a list of paddling events along the Ohio Riverway for 2025. We have a good list so far. I know Kelly just mentioned Packadam Lock Paddle. There's the M2M Paddle, which was also mentioned earlier. What other events do you all know about that need to be mentioned? There's P-Town Float, Paddle Fest in Louisville, and the Hike Bikes and Paddles in Carrollton and Louisville. Paddle Fest in Cincinnati. What are there any other paddling events you all know of that we need to add?
Hey guys, this is Beth from Mill Creek Alliance. Not necessarily a paddling event, but we do have Mill Creek paddles and cleanups throughout the season. So if you would like to add options in on tributaries, we're happy to have that advertised or shared as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Any other news?
I don't know if this has been shared already, but the Village of New Richmond will be hosting the Appalachian Festival, which for the last 54 years had been held at Coney Island. But since the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra has purchased the property, the Appalachian Festival will be now hosted in the Village of New Richmond. And Catherine here is online. She can provide more details of it.
But Larry, who's a member of the Village Council in New Richmond, been involved with us for years. Thank you for joining us. But Catherine keeps pointing out that this is finally the Appalachian Festival is finally in a community that is officially in Appalachia.
That's correct.
Right.
Their new forever home.
All right, that's great.
Yes. Thank you for allowing us to share. Thanks, Larry.
Congratulations, y'all. And I see that Brad Bowers with Tri-State Trails just put in the chat information about the Regional Trails and Bikeways meeting this next Friday at 9:30. So check that out. But that's a wonderful organization that we are collaborating with very extensively. So Forrest, anything else?
I think that might be it from us. We've gone through a lot today. Thank you all so much for hopping on. Our team will stay on, but if that's the end of the meeting, thank you all so much. And we will see you again in February, third Thursday in February at 10 a.m.
And we will stay on the chat, our little water cooler discussion. So anybody, I mean, not the chat, but live. So anybody like to stay on and have and share anything else, we'd welcome the opportunity to visit with you. But thank you all very much for joining us. Hats off to all your participation. We're grateful.
Thank you. Thank you.
And there's additional announcements being made in the chat. Just check that out. Rising Sun and